not enjoying eating and like.
Soda lover. Do you guys like soda? Mm-hmm. Well, that's good, kind of. And there is.
I like the regular, the chocolate covered fruit, the frozen ones, and I saw those.
Sorry, dried fruit. Like those dried fruits that they sell like in sprouts.
Yeah.
Respond to you. He wants to see what you have learned and see how it plays out, and then he'll put you on to the next avenue. God is not going to set you up for failure. Okay? God is not going to set you up to be stressed, to be anxious, to be weary, to be in a place where you have to be fighting for your life, fighting for your emotions, okay? Fighting for a seat. Your seat has your name on it in big letters. Okay? Questions? All right. All right, ladies. How you doing? And gents? Yeah, right. So if you ain't already noticed, we got our beautiful Miss Black Arizona Queens here. And we're gonna just speak on business today. Okay? We're gonna speak about the benefits of business and the benefits of starting your own business, growing that brand. If you have a brand, of course, sharing that, and realizing the impact it has on you and your family. Okay? So we're gonna start off with Caitlin, and we're gonna go to Mrs. Caitlin over here, if you ain't know, okay? And Miss Eternity over here, okay? And they're the Miss Black Arizona Queens, okay? Don't take that lightly. The pageant, and I'm gonna let y'all share more, because I feel like y'all got it.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm currently the reigning Miss Black Arizona USA. I am 25, soon to be 26 on the 6th of August.
On the 6th?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that?
She's 8th, I'm 9th.
Oh my God. Oh wow. But yeah, so I've been competing in pageants since I was about 6 years old, so it has been a big part of my life. I'm super thankful to be Miss Black Arizona USA. So a little bit about me and just how pageantry works in general is every girl has a platform. that is kind of a cause or an organization that you have. So it's like your brand. And every pageant girl has her brand, and it's usually something that's very meaningful to you. So my platform is called Putting the Care Back in Foster Care, where I advocate for youth within the foster care system, sharing my own story of adoption, as well as my experience as a former foster care and adoption specialist and a youth support specialist. So I'll get into that in a second. But I'm currently a teacher and a school social worker, and I love my job very much. I'm a little sad because I'll be missing the first 5 days of school because we will be competing. We are getting ready to leave on Monday to compete at Nationals, so we'll be representing Arizona at the Miss Black USA pageant. That's going to be August 4th, so we are super excited to be doing that. But a little bit about my platform is I graduated, so I was adopted at birth. That's my mom over there. So I was adopted at birth, and my adoption luckily was an open adoption. So there's two types of adoptions. There's an open and a closed adoption. I was thankful that mine was open, meaning I could have contact with my biological family. I could always know where I came from. Fortunately, that's not everybody's case. Some people have closed adoptions, which means all records are sealed. You will never ever know anything, even medical history. Everything's closed off. So I'm fortunate enough that I do have a relationship with my biological parents. They live in North Carolina, and they'll actually be going to the pageant. It's the first time they're ever going to watch me compete in a pageant, so it's very special for me. But when I was adopted, I lived in a small border town called Douglas, Arizona. It's about 2 hours south of Tucson, and it sits right on the U.S.-Mexico border. And I always loved school. My mom was a teacher, and I was the type of kid where I loved being, I just loved being out of school for the first week of summer, and then I was like, so when does school start? I love school, I love education. And so I would always love going back to school shopping. So I would, gather all my school supplies. And so, I grew up in Douglas. After that, graduated, and I went to the University of Arizona, where I got a bachelor's in psychology and a minor in leadership studies and practice. And when I was there, I took a really interesting class, and it was called Schooling and Diversity. And it looked at a person's race and their socioeconomic background and just their background in general and how that has an effect on their schooling. And it really got me thinking about me growing up in Douglas. It's a predominantly Hispanic town. I was usually the only black kid in my entire school, but a lot of my friends and their families struggled a lot. And so I remember when school would start, a lot of the kids didn't have the school supplies that they needed, and so here I was, already have graduated from high school, was in Tucson, but I wanted to get back to my community. So it literally started with me making a Facebook post saying, hey, if anybody wants to donate school supplies, I'm collecting school supplies. And I went ahead and just gathered school supplies, and I've done that for the last 7 years now. And it's just grown. I've gotten donations from all across the nation of just either financial donations or physical school supplies. And so I've been able to go back to my hometown and just other towns or other schools now, even in Tucson, that need supplies, and give them to those schools so that when a kid is struggling, they can get school supplies free of cost. And so I've just been doing that for the last 7 years. And sometimes I've had a title, sometimes I haven't. It's just something that I'm really passionate about. And that was under that, I started my own organization called Project Happiness Arizona. So that was my brand. It was it's kind of my nonprofit, so to speak, and I'm working on getting it registered as a 501c3, so I'm super excited about that. And then after I graduated from the U of A, I started working in social work. So I worked with the Arizona Children's Association, and that is where I got to be a foster care and adoption specialist. So with that, I was working with kids ages 16 to 21 who are getting ready to transition out of foster care. So when you turn 18 in the state of Arizona, you have to decide, are you going to do extended foster care, which is a good choice just because they get a lot of resources as they continue to get older up until they're about 25, or they can be completely on their own and they're no longer a ward of the state. So I was helping them kind of decide what was going to be best for them, helping them with life skills, resources, whatever they need, and I loved that. And then I moved on to be a foster care and adoption specialist, and so that's where I actually was helping families get licensed to be able to foster and adopt children within the state of Arizona. And it was funny because when I was interning and doing my interview for that job, I told my mom, oh yeah, I'm applying to this agency, and she was like, that agency sounds really familiar. So she looked through her paperwork, and it happened to be the same organization that helped her adopt me, which is super full circle. And so I loved that, and I thought it was great, and I absolutely loved that. And then after that, I moved on, and currently I'm going into my 3rd year of teaching, and I absolutely love it. And because of my background, I am the school social worker. So I do deal with a lot of our kids who have current involvement within DCS, who are foster kids, and helping them get resources, but also just kids who are struggling with homelessness. who need resources. Maybe, you know, at home they don't have the hygiene products they need, so helping them do that. And I love it. And so with my organization now too, when I was a foster care and adoption specialist, I was helping one of my youth transition from one home to another. And I think this was his 6th home that he had moved in to within just a month. And he was 12. And so I was helping him move his stuff, and he got his stuff out of the car, and it was all in trash bags. And it was just so normal to him, like he didn't think anything of it. And it broke my heart, because I thought, what message are we sending these kids when we tell them to put everything that is so important to them in trash bags? It's kind of telling them that they're trash, that they're just kind of pushed aside. And so I wanted to be able to do something to make an impact, and that's where I started collecting luggage, just normal suitcase. And that really can just change someone's perception and how they value themselves. And for a lot of times when foster youth are moving, they will tell them like, hey, by the way, you're moving in like an hour, and you have to just collect all of your stuff. There's not a lot of notice sometimes. And so just making that transition, even though it's just a suitcase or just a bag, it can help the situation better than just throwing a trash bag at them, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I started collecting suitcases. Eternity and her family have been amazing. They've donated to my organization, just even prior to us being sister queens together, just donating luggage, backpacks, any gently used items. And so this year, as Miss Black Arizona USA, I was collecting both school supplies and those suitcases. So this year, I'm donating 20 luggage items, and I collected 180 school supplies. And those donations went to the Arizona Department of Child Safety and Arizona Children's Association. And this year when I was donating it, I got to actually meet some foster youth that were at the center. And that was special because they were like, can we get the supplies? I'm like, yeah, that's the point. It's for you guys. And so that was super special, because in the past, it's always just been like a case manager, but being able to see my supplies actually going to kids in need, it was something very special. So we're super excited, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, the pageant experience going to nationals, but that's just kind of a little bit about me and my platform. So
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. My name is Eternity, if you haven't learned already, but you all can call me ET. I've been consecutively competing in pageants for over, 11 or 10 years now. And as Caitlin mentioned, you are able to curate your own platform in pageantry, saying today, as pageant girls, you get to speak at engagements like this, and you get a large platform to talk about a social issue, an economical issue, and etc. And that's when I created my platform, which is Eclathon Tole for mental health awareness and advocacy. It's dazzling outcry in French. And my organization is here to serve, guide, provide, and above all else, love you, to accentuate the matter of mental health and mental health awareness. I feel we're not talking about it, but we're not providing as many resources. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever just had a time where you just felt like you just wanted to be in bed all day? You felt unproductive and you didn't know what to do. You felt like you couldn't go to even your closest family members or friends about it. And sometimes we endure these things, but also the person next to us is also. But we don't talk about how to combat that. So that's why, as a young individual, not only do I envelope myself in the knowledge to not only help myself when I'm enduring these things, but also when my peers are. When I curated my organization back in April 19th of 2020, this was the time where the epidemic happened and transpired in all of us. And I know it knocked me off of my pedestal. The friends that I was hanging out with, I stopped talking to them, they stopped talking to me, and I felt generally alone. And I remember going through a lot of anxiety and even depression and just sadness overall, and I felt really alone. So that's what led me to creating my platform. In pageantry, I'm so thankful that so many people accept you and put your platform on a pedestal. And with that, I've been able to speak to colleges with over 300 students about the importance of mental health and mental health awareness. And not even just talking about it, but also providing resources. This is the 2nd year anniversary of the 988 hotline being launched for mental health awareness and advocacy, and whenever you're in a generalized crisis. So it's important to not just envelope yourself in the knowledge, talk about it, and get the word out about mental health and what's actually happening, but also provide the resources. Because at the end of the day, we can say, hey, it's okay not to be okay. But what am I supposed to do with that, you know? And so it's so important to provide those resources. Whether that just be, for example, anxiety. Whenever I feel like I'm getting a bit panicky, I tell myself 4-7-8 breathing technique. You know, sometimes you can tell people, yeah, here's a hotline or a text line for you to reach out to, to, but sometimes people are uncomfortable doing that. So that's why on my official organization, Ekleton Tole on Instagram, I provide resources, whether that be little notes to people with generalized topics for depression, talking about what depression would say to you. Hey, just get outside sometimes, you know, breathe in the fresh air. Or even, like I said, the 4-7-8 breathing technique, telling people how to do that, how to utilize that. Because I'm a firm believer in all of the tools are within yourself. You just really have to utilize them. And I'm so thankful again to pageantry for being the key to unlock that greatness within myself, because this is something that I've always been passionate about. And I love to talk about how mental health is a generalized issue, just as it's for gut health, brain health. Your mental health is important and everyone has it. It's just, you know, generalized, and it's on a spectrum, whether people have poor mental health or they have good mental health, or they have no knowledge of it. So it's so important for even just someone as myself to, like I said, talk about it and know what it is that we're going through. I have a tagline that I like to say, which is, what you're going through is real and it matters. And I like to implement this in my brand because at the end of the day, my organization I feel is my baby, and I put my heart and my soul into it. Just even as a young girl, this will set me up for the future. One of my long-term goals is to create an app that people can access internationally, whether that be for mental health support and resources, or even just an app that you can go to just log how your mental health activity is, and just to do a little check-in. This is something that I'm just so passionate about, and speaking about it today and talking to you all about the importance of it, and also how you have something within you that you can ignite yourself, whether that be for mental health or whether that be for helping others or being an entrepreneur, starting up your own business. This is something that you can do essentially, no matter your age, no matter your status or your race or your sex or whatever you identify as. It's something that you can have and that you can do, because one day it may not even just help yourself, but it may also help others.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, just a little bit about the pageantry and the aspects of that. I think there is always a really big misconception when it comes to pageantry. Not a lot of people know about it or what it entails. I know that it's not usually something that I like lead with when I meet somebody on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes it comes up in conversation. And when I tell people like, oh yeah, I compete in pageants, they automatically think to that TLC show, Toddlers and Tears.
Yes.
And they're like, so you're out here like doing the cupcake hands, and I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. But that is a branch of pageantry. So it's like there's different types of pageants. So that's known as like the glitz world of pageantry, and then there's natural pageants. And so with those pageants, it's really a little more, there's a little more work that goes into that. So within the Miss Black USA organization, we compete in various areas of competition. So we have formal wear, which is where you're in a gown and you get to walk on stage and they want to see you being graceful. And then we also have interview, where we actually sit down with the judges, they ask us questions, they get to know us. We have on-stage question, where they usually talk to us about some sort of political or social issue, and they want to know what our thoughts and opinions are on that. And then we have talent, which I love our talent, so I tap dance, and Eternity sings. Yes, so we're excited about our talents for sure. And what am I missing one? Sportswear,
fitness,
fitness,
yes.
fitness.
Yes.
So fitness also is super important. Just like our mental health is important, our physical health is important. And in pageantry, it can be difficult because we competed at the Miss Arizona Teen Pageant this last year, which is connected with the Miss America organization. And they also have fitness, and then there's, of course, the Miss USA brand, which does swimsuit. And fitness has been a hot topic within the pageant world, saying, well, should girls be on stage in a swimsuit, or should girls just do fitness? And I really like the Miss Black USA stance on fitness, and that they like that you can show that you're physically fit. You can do it in like activewear, sportswear, but they also recognize that fitness looks different for everybody. Not everybody is going to look the same. Not every body type is going to look the same, and you can look healthy in various ways. And so that's been really nice being a part of this organization, because you have so many girls, not only with just different skin tones of black, but also just different body types and how we wear our hair. So it's been a really inclusive organization that we've gotten to be a part of. And I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I wanted to chime in and say, just with the several months that we have as been the reigning Miss Black Arizona Queens, I can say this pageant has truly changed my life. I'm not even over exaggerating. I can say that as a young girl, being able to graduate early from high school, I have big dreams ahead of me. Both something that me and Caitlin resonate with is that we both love education. So I would love to pursue a future career in political science. but I do have a future career in modeling and acting. I have that on my plate. But it's so important to me to envelope myself with the day and age that we live in, to really envelope yourself in what's going on in legislation and what's going on in the House as we speak, and talk about that. So I was able to be a part of the 400 Years of African American History Commission and be a winning recipient for a $2,000 scholarship towards my studies. So, and that's a branch with the Miss Black USA organization. So just doing that and being able to have over 50 hours of community service, I'm so active in my community. And as I mentioned before, I've been involved in pageantry for almost my entire life. And in the beginning, as I mentioned, I've always strived to be a model and actress ever since I could have cognitive thoughts. And I didn't really know what to do with that as a young girl. And I was definitely the kind of child to watch a movie or a TV show and reenact that scene in the backyard or perform at a Thanksgiving dinner. That was definitely me. But as soon as I stepped out of the house, I was confined by my talents. I was also bashed by what society deemed as normal or what society deemed as, what it was the exception. And I felt like I wasn't always the exception. I was degraded for who I was, and that confined me. I had a shell, and I had this bright personality and big aspirations, but I didn't know what to do with that. And that's when my family actually entered me in a pageant, and I've been so strong in it ever since then, because it's given me this pedestal to speak to you all up today. It's given me the pedestal to curate my own organization. And as Caitlin mentioned, the Miss Black USA organization I feel it varies from the other systems. This one, I feel like I'm actually accepted, and I can also accept the people around me. And it's really communitized. I mean, just being able to speak with the other girls and being able to see someone who looks like me and is also accepted for who they are. It's such a beautiful thing. And to just be celebrated for who you are is so, so beautiful. And I'm so excited to take off with Caitlin. We've known each other for, over 9 or 10 years or so, and this is our first time being reigning sister queens together, and she actually got me into the system. I was ready to close the pageant book, because at the end of the day, pageantry is volunteer work, and there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a lot of downgrades to it and upgrades to it, and I was ready to close it, but she said, let's just do one last time, one last bang together, one last hurrah. And I'm so glad she did, because we've had such a beautiful year together, and going on to nationals together, I wouldn't want to be alongside anyone else, because we have truly made an impact, and we're ready to bring the heat to nationals.
I'm excited. Another really great part of this organization for me too, and again, being a teacher, I'm also finishing up my master's program at Grand Canyon University, so I'm always big on education. I'm always going to advocate for it, and something I tell my students is, I said, no matter what, your education is something that nobody can take away from you. It doesn't matter where you come from. Once you have that is yours, and something to be very proud of. And with the Miss Black USA organization, for both the teen and the Miss division, the winners who get to be the new national title holders get a 4-year renewable scholarship to the University of Washington, D.C. So I think with her just getting out of high school and graduating early, I think that would be amazing to get a degree paid for. And I would love to pursue a PhD if they're going to pay for it. I would love to do that. So that's a big thing that people don't know in pageantry, is you can earn scholarships, and it can open up a lot of doors for you. So we always encourage girls to do it, and a lot of times they're like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm like, just try it. It's obviously really fun, and it's growing. It's a true organization that's growing, and I think it's really awesome to see young people join it. So
And I genuinely feel like pageantry can pave the way for someone. I even see now that they're letting all people compete. There's even male pageants, so I think that pageantry can sometimes put you on a pedestal and unlock your future for yourself. And so not a lot of people sometimes, I know for me personally, I have a lot of dreams and I have a lot of aspirations, but sometimes I don't know what to do with it. And I feel like pageantry has said, hey girl, you can achieve that. And it's just, you pour into this organization and we'll pour back into you. And it's such a beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, you gain a relationship with this. Not only are you gaining so many skills and so many different opportunities and networking, but you also gain a sisterhood. Like I said today, pageantry has really enveloped myself with so many great things as a young 17-year-old girl living here today in this day and age. It's so important to know that I have the tools to do what I want to do, and also tell people that they can too, no matter where they're at in life. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of very successful people that have been in pageantry. Beyonce competed in pageants.
Yes.
Oprah Winfrey competed in pageants. And they didn't even win. Like, they didn't even win their pageants. And that's something that's also really important is I think, unfortunately, like, there's always plus and minuses to pageants.
Right.
And one thing that we've really learned, and luckily thanks to our family and our friends and just motivating each other, is pageantry, it's subjective, honestly. Like, you're going in front of judges that have never met you, and they kind of just pick, based off of what they know. And so it's really important not to wrap yourself up in the success of like taking home the crown. At the end of the day, one girl's gonna win, and that's just what it is. Eternity has like 19 girls in her division. I have like 26 in mine. So you just have to go out there and be your best. And if you're what they're looking for, then you're what they're looking for. But you can't wrap yourself up in, oh my gosh, I didn't win the pageant, and you can't draw your self-worth from that. And so I once heard somebody say, in pageantry, you either win or you learn. And I think that's great because in all the years that I've been competing in pageantry, I've had titles, I've won, but I have lost more than I have won, but I've always learned something about myself. And so that's really important, and something, I coach girls now in pageantry that are wanting to get into that world, and I tell them, of course the end goal is to, take home that title, but you have to also just like appreciate that journey of you going through that. So whatever is going to happen for us is going to be meant for us. I always say what's meant for you will not pass you by. So, if we go to nationals and that's meant for us, it'll happen for sure. But even just as state queens, we've gotten to do a lot. We've been able to make such a big impact, and it's just really exciting that we are even in this position. So either way, pageantry, it can be a lot sometimes, but just reminding yourself and grounding yourself and reminding yourself of who you are is super important, especially when you're in a room of so many inspirational women. You should never take it as like, oh, well, like, I feel some type of way towards her. Like, that's an opportunity for you to grow and make connections. Like, you guys can maybe do something in the future together. Like, I always like to say, I'm not competing against anybody, but I'm competing with other girls. Like, that's kind of my mindset, and that just helps me going into nationals, just to be, myself, and just whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. That's what we've been telling each other. It's just, So it's been really awesome, and it's been a really great experience, and we're really proud to represent Arizona. This organization particularly has a lot of roots very much in the East Coast, and so we're just excited to like bring some Arizona heat East side.
And like in addition to that, when you are competing in a pageant or any competition, you're immediately going to be judged on who you are. You're going to immediately be compared to someone else. And as a mental health advocate, I made a post the other day on my organization that everything you need is within yourself. So although pageantry is a stepping stone, do not get lost in that. Do not forget who you are, and don't forget that at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to win this pageant, or you're the one who's going to learn from this pageant. I have to always remind myself that everything I need is within myself. There are people who can maybe open up my eyes a little bit better with seeing that, but at the end of the day, going into a pageant is so important to not only love yourself. I feel it's honestly our jobs to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, making sure we're being able to speak, making sure we're being able to represent ourselves, to represent our communities. And I feel like I'm so excited for this job and also ready for this job to be, have the opportunity to be the Miss Black USA Talented Team, and not only be able to represent everyone in the United States of America. I think that's such a beautiful thing, especially in this day and age. It's so important to not only be an advocate for your community, but also an advocate for yourself. So I love how Miss Black USA, it really encourages that and really preaches that, but it's also so important to take care of yourself and not, forget that what Caitlin said, you're competing with these amazing young women, but also not against them. I love to be what everyone likes to call me is their personal hype woman, and I think that's so beautiful, pouring into other people, because it really makes you flourish within yourself, and you don't have to feel like it's like you're competing against one another, because like I said, everything is within yourself, so you can share that love that you have, but also share it with others as well.
I have a question for you ladies. How do you deal with the pressure of like being around others who are just, like not really as driven or successful? Like, how do you deal with that pressure or that negativity?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, like I just mentioned, knowing that everything within myself is all I need. And I think that it's so important to, like I said, pour into others, but also pour into yourself. As I mentioned, I feel like I've really been able to make something for myself at the age of 17. But it's also so important to not forget that this is fun. Life is so short to appreciate every single moment. Right before I go to bed, I pray to God. I say I'm so thankful for the roof over my head, the clothes on my back, and the food on my plate. So it's so important to not lose sight on who you are and that message and that drive. Because at the end of the day, do you say you want to make something for yourself, or do you want to make something out of what other people are doing? What other people around you, your competition, for example, because we're competing against some very successful girls and some girls who are really driven in what they do. But it's so important to celebrate that, but also let that motivate you. Not to say, oh my gosh, her dress is better than mine, or she's been doing this longer than I have been, but to let that motivate you. I want to be like her, and I can be like her, but I also want to celebrate her. So that's my biggest thing, and that I feel like that's my philanthropy in competing in pageants, especially for so long and at a young age. It's so important because there are times where you're like, okay, I'm competing against a lot of girls who are very pretty and very successful, but I feel I'm in that category. I'm very pretty and I'm very successful, and to not be ashamed about it. I feel like, especially as Black women, we're confined in a space to not be confident. We're confined in a space to not be bold and have a big personality. So that's why it's also important to also find organizations and pageant systems that will celebrate that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, I'm a firm believer in energy exchanges. And sometimes you'll compete in pageant systems, I will say for myself, where it wasn't the best space and I was someone who I wasn't. But it was also because I was getting energy that just wasn't for me. You know, as Caitlin mentioned, what's made for you will not pass you by. But sometimes you'll have to go through those obstacles and those adversities in your journey and that roadblock to get you to where you need to be, so you can have that confidence and be so rooted in yourself and in your journey.
Wow. And to go off of that too, you know, when I try to surround myself with people who are just as motivated, right? People who are trying to achieve excellence, because it pushes me to want to continue to do well myself. So even just in my regular friend group, like I have one friend who just finished her master's, another one that's trying to become a family licensed therapist, another one that works at a hospital, one that's trying to train to be a vet tech. But it's so great because we can continue to push each other and like motivate each other to be the very best. And so it's really important to just stay focused on what you want to do. There's going to be people who maybe aren't as motivated, and that's okay, but you can also use that as an opportunity to kind of encourage them as well. And so that's, yeah, it's kind of like Eternity was saying, really big on energies. I feed off of people's energies really well. And even within the pageantry, and the pageant scene, you know, even at the pageant, like the truth of the matter is there's going to be girls that are there for the pageant to compete to get the crown, and that's their mindset. And you know, I understand if you want to be competitive, sure, but I think there's a way where there's a time and place where you can be competitive when you're on stage, but don't lose out on the opportunity of getting to meet the girls around you and being standoffish. You want to be able to just meet other people and get to know them and know what they, you know, what they think on certain things. So I really, when I go into a pageant, specifically like a national pageant, I go off of people's energies. I'm like, this girl's really nice and she's really sweet, and like that probably is the girl that I'm going to be really hanging out with and getting to know. And then also just like making sure that we're checking in with each other and that, you know, we feel good about stuff. So yeah, I think just surrounding yourself with people who are just as motivated as you really helps.
Also, in addition to that, the very first pageant I competed in, I won. And I remember going to the orientation for the pageant before the competition started. I was learning everything, and at the very young age I said, I want to win this. Essentially, I did with literally no prior knowledge, just big dreams and aspirations and the style that I had. And I tell myself to bring out that inner child in me, to bring out that little E.T. who had that, you know, she said, I'm going to win in this. And winning is not defined by a crown, nor a trophy, nor a amount of cash or prize. It's winning and locking something within yourself. And not only did I walk away with that crown that night, but I also walked in with a winning title within myself. So I tell myself anytime I'm competing, it's hard to not get lost in the sauce whenever you're competing, but I tell myself to remember what eternity wants and to remember what eternity also did.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Girl! Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Y'all have any questions?
First of all, I just want to tell you, ladies, I am like so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
No, for real. Like, I have 2 teenagers, and I'm just like, this is amazing. Because there was something you said about us being constrained, about being bold, being ourselves, and all of that. And I always love someone that's confident. What did I tell you guys? Like,
Yes.
I love the confidence.
Yeah.
So I wish you guys the very, very
Thank
best.
you
Like,
so
let
much.
nobody dull your shine in any
Thank
way.
you. And And that means so much to me because I've not always been confident. I can say even till this day sometimes I lack that self-esteem. But anytime I walk into this space, I feel like, okay, now I can be eternity. Now I can bring out that inner superstar that I strive to be. So hearing that, it really means so much, and that really creates something in myself that I say, eternity, even though it's hard and sometimes you do get low, and sometimes you do have those roadblocks, there's people who notice it and people who also want to do it as well, and when they see you, they're like, okay, I can do it as well.
Exactly, like you be an inspiration to everyone. So just understand that even during those blue days, don't give up, because trust me, you enter the room, you're like a light, for both of you, you're like a light to somebody, like, oh, I can't do this. They're like, okay, I can't do this. Let's go.
I did it. Anyone can do it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So don't ever, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm glad that you put that back in. Because she said she was doing it.
I was like, girl, come sign up for this.
Right. So that's what like a sister's keeper. You know, watching ourselves. And it's something that is people say very popular, like, help your sister fix her crown. You know what I'm saying? Don't, when you know that someone is slacking, don't be like, oh my god, this is slacking. No, like, girl, let me fix your crown. And I see that. I see you doing that. So thank you for watching over her. And I'm sure you're gonna do it for the next person, for the next generation as well. I do have a question though. What age did you start? Beauty, like how old were you when you first started?
Okay, so absolutely. So I started pageantry around 6 or 7 years old. But I have a younger sister. Her name is Ella, and she's 8 or 9 years old. I don't know. The time is going by so fast. And Caitlin herself actually coached my younger sister, and she was 5 or 6 when she competed in her first pageant. And I know that really it starts when you're 3. There's some age divisions where it starts at any time, and there's no age limit for this, kind of thing. And I'm so grateful that I was able to start at a young age and start at the time that I did.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I started when I was about 6.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a little, and I'm 20. I'm gonna be turning 26.
Right.
So
20 years.
Big part of my
decades.
life. Yeah. And you know what's really beautiful about pageantry is you can really start at any age, and you technically don't have to stop. They have pageants for anybody at any age, and I think that's a big misconception in pageantry is people think you have to start at a young age and kind of like grow up. I have literally seen girls did not have any idea, didn't have any knowledge about pageantry, but just the way their energy was and the way that they carried themselves, they practiced a little bit, came into a pageant, maybe they're like 19 years old and would win the thing. And they would beat out girls who have been doing this as long as I have. And the reason why is just because a lot of the times with pageantry, you definitely will find yourself conforming. Like there can be times where you feel like you have to conform like a certain way. And then sometimes when there's a girl where she's fresh and she has no idea what she's doing, but she's just herself, that is something that really like you can see that. And so with pageantry and just my experience with competing with pageantry, competing in pageantry as a Black woman too is like a whole different ballgame in itself. And there were times where I have competed and there's been times where I maybe didn't understand the results and I was like a little confused and we were like, what the heck? And it's not even I thought I did better and stuff, but there's spaces where unfortunately it just said they're not looking for a Black representative, and that can be really hard to digest sometimes because it doesn't matter that you've done this amazing community service and that you're involved in your community and that you've done all these amazing things. Somebody will still see you as just a Black woman sometimes, and unfortunately that means sometimes you're just not going to get picked. And I've even been told, even within pageantry, like I always would compete with straight hair, or I'd put in extensions and then wear my hair straight curled. And in all the years that I've ever been competing in pageant, this year will be the first year that I'm competing with braids. And I've even been told I wanted to compete at Miss Arizona with braids. I was like, this would be really awesome. Like I feel really confident in wearing braids. And I was told not to because they were like, it's going to impact your score. They're not going to score you as high just because they don't really understand, And so that was tough, but even now going into Miss Black USA, I feel more confident than ever because I get to be myself 100%. Another thing big with pageantry is tattoos. I have 4 of them on my arms. You don't really ever notice them.
I didn't know what you said.
And a lot of times with pageantry, it's like, oh, we have to cover up your tattoos. Like it's very taboo in the pageant world. And I'm like, I'm competing with braids and tattoos and if they don't want me because of just those reasons, then that's fine. Like, I don't want to win at that point anyways. But I want to be 100% myself and just be proud of who I am. But yeah, with pageantry it can be tough sometimes because even though you may be the most qualified candidate, even within pageantry, there is a lot of struggles and stereotyping that can happen within pageantry. So this is why Miss Black USA, you know, people are like, well, why is there if there's a Miss USA, and it's funny because the actual Miss USA pageant is the same weekend that Miss Black USA is this year. And so they're like, well, why is there a space for just Black women? And I said, because we are able to be in a space where we can be celebrated for who we are, and I don't have to explain why I'm walking around with a bonnet on my head. Like, I don't have to explain why I'm not gonna be like, oh, too bad. Like, you know what I mean? Because it happens. People just don't get it. And, you know, so there's times where stuff like that can happen, but I can be in a space where everybody understands that, and people are wearing their hair differently. And even within pageantry too, it took me a really long time to find really good hair and makeup artists because people were not educated on how to do Black women makeup or even how to do our hair. And now that's become something where people and big artists are actually educating themselves on how to do that. So pageantry evolves and changes in so many different ways, and it has, you know, probably since the beginning of time even to now, and it is a lot more accepting. We have seen a lot of Miss USAs who have been Black or been mixed, and even in other systems. So it can happen, but it's just changed a lot. But it's nice to have a space where we all look like each other, where we can celebrate ourselves for being Black women and just be empowered and feel uplifted. And I don't have to explain any part of myself. I can just be myself.
When it comes to the foster kid, first of all, I want to give you your rose this month. Thank you for taking her in, because I'm sure you really poured into her, and that's how she is today. So thank you. That's amazing. I think it's the nicest thing that anybody can do.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask a question of at what age were you before you like had that relationship with your real parents? Was it like at what age were you before she adopted you, and then when you do not have that relationship with your real parents?
Yeah, so I have always known that I was adopted, clearly, because that would be hard to explain. So I've always known that I was adopted, and I think the first time that I went after being, because I was adopted at birth, and then I went to at birth. So I've always just lived in Douglas, and then I think the first time we went to North Carolina to go back to visit my parents, I think it was like 3. And then I've also gone back when I was 6. And then when I graduated high school, both my parents came to Arizona and watched me graduate. And so I've always just had contact with them. And they're my parents, they're involved. And something that I also appreciate was my mom just being very like, you know, I think my biological mom and dad were kind of like, well, is it okay if we contact her? And she's like, yeah, like you're her parents, like you don't have to ask me to talk to her. So we've never had this, you know, and I'm really fortunate that my story is a positive one. That's not everybody's case, and I recognize that. But you know, when people are deciding, you know, when they make that decision to put their child up for adoption, and my parents, it was, you know, they were young parents. They had already had my older brother, and they were young, and they just knew financially they weren't going to be able to provide the life for us that we needed. So what I think is probably the ultimate sacrifice is putting up their child. Nobody wants to do that, but they wanted to do that. And I think to myself, you know, if they would not have made that decision, well, I would not have any of this. I would not have, you know, the experiences that I did. I would not probably be here in pageantry. Like, it's so crazy how the world works, and I'm thankful that they made that decision for sure, because it's a difficult one. But I recognize not everybody has, you know, positive stories. And so there's been, you know, even with my work with foster youth and even some of my students, just hearing some of the stuff that they've gone through and had to deal with, that children really should not have to deal with, or make decisions that they should not have to deal with, it can be tough. And even within the foster care system, our system's so broken. And there's so many things that make it difficult. So, you know, in the state of Arizona, if you say you have a family member who has a child, you know, and they're no longer able to take care of the child for whatever reason, if you step up and say, I'm going to care for this child, you do not get any financial support from the state whatsoever in the state of Arizona until you become a licensed foster parent. So every state's different. Some states will give, and what that would be called is a kinship relationship. But in the state of Arizona, if you are not a licensed foster parent, you do not get any financial support. So then we have an aunt or a grandma who's taking care of, a niece, nephew, cousin, whatever the case may be. So we say, okay, well, we can get you through the process of being licensed.
Right.
And then you'll get some financial support, which really, the financial support's not enough, in my personal opinion. But you go through that process. Okay, well, that process is going to probably take about 1.5 years before we actually do that. And that's if we have enough case managers to process all your paperwork. That's if you can pass your home inspection in the first rounds, because sometimes people have to go back and fix things around their house. That's if everything goes as planned. But on average in the state of Arizona, I would say it's about a 2.5 year process to get licensed if things go well. And so that's something that's tough too, because sometimes there has been kids where grandma's taking care of their grandson, and she's like, I just can't afford it, and I have to give my grandson back up, and they have to go back in the system. So it's really tough. There's really great things about our system. So in the state of Arizona, if you were in foster care at any point in time, you can go to school through the ETV program to get a bachelor's, and the state will pay for it. So in that aspect, it's wonderful. But a lot of times, most kids aren't even thinking about college. They're just trying to make it day by day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it can be really tough. But also, especially with the older kids that I was working with, trying to teach them life skills like money management. These kids were like, okay, well, I want to get a job. Okay, great. So let's go, fill out an application. Okay, well, you need a state ID. Well, I don't have a state ID, or my case manager has it. Okay, well, when was the last time you talked to your case manager? Well, probably like 6 months ago. Case manager no longer works there because there's a short, it's a whole thing. And you need your social security card. Well, they can't hand that over to you until you turn 18. So then you have that whole thing. And then with kids, if they're under 18 and they want to open a bank account, you need a cosigner. Your case manager and your foster parent can't be your cosigner because they cannot be legally responsible. But we're supposed to be teaching these kids life skills, and that's a mandate within the state that we can't do that. That's a law that's put in place. And so there's a lot of things that we don't think about. If a kid wants to have a car, to have transportation to get to the place, or maybe they had a car at some point in time, if they're in a foster home, they're not able to have the car because it's a liability issue having it on grounds. So there's so many things, and it's these kids are, a lot of them, they're trying, but some of them are just like, I'm giving up because there's so many roadblocks, but there's a lot of things that people don't know about. So those are just a few things that were really, really tough.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's not expressed.
Not at all.
I didn't know it was that complicated.
Yeah, and even adopting. Okay, my mom had been trying to adopt a child. She didn't even care age, gender, race, nothing, but it took her 15 years to adopt me. Wow. So
15?
And that was 15 years in the system and saying, I'll take any child, I don't care. And I ended up adopting her through a private agency out of California. And they were nationwide, but that's...
Why did it take so long? Because there's so many kids that actually need that. They're making it so difficult.
One would think, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I every time I see those commercials, every time I see those commercials where, you don't have to be blah, blah, blah to be a foster parent. Yeah, you do. Because there's all these hoops that you have to jump through that, they don't make it easy.
It's hard being a foster parent.
Yeah.
I like the way that you said you call her mom. My granddaughter's Kunika. I adopted Kunika, her sister, her brother, all of them at one time. And this, you know what year that was?
I was
How old were you?
14.
They were about 14.
I'm 31.
I took all of them, they was in the shelter. And they told me if I come, and I went to the shelter, they said they want to come and look at my house. I had an immaculate place. They came, they looked, they gave me all of them at one time. So me and my daughter, we broke them up a little bit. And matter of fact, Kunika's sister's still in foster care now.
She's 13.
She's 13, but...
And she was adopted at three days.
Right, and the thing that I don't like about that is she called mom, the adopted mother. But the adopted mother, like you say, she let you meet her mother. She don't want her to meet her mother.
My sister-in-law,
Right, who got the same mother. And it's been going through this channel for the last years. But I tell you, I don't know you and you, both of y'all. Y'all speak better than, I'm 71 years old, and I'm just listening at y'all. Y'all talk better than the vice president. Y'all talking better than the vice president. I'm trying to figure this out. Yeah, I'm trying to figure where y'all getting all this stuff from. And I'm not a speaker, but I'm trying to understand y'all, but y'all speaking very well.
Thank you.
But I want to get back to my grandkids. I adopted all of them. Now, Quanika, she was going to school. Quanika amazed me. I seen some stuff on Facebook. I don't deal YouTubes and all this. I'm not on Facebook and I'm not on none of that stuff.
Okay.
Don't even know about it. And I seen Quanika do some thing, and she came to my church. I've been in my church about 40 years, and she came and spoke one Sunday. I was amazed. And Quanika, she made a big U-turn. My granddaughter, this one, she made a big U-turn. And I ain't never believed Quanika gonna get far as she got. But she was always good in school. I went to school one time for her. But she got herself together, Quanika. Yes, she really did. She's my oldest granddaughter. I got 5 of them. But the thing is this, in life, you gotta focus on what you wanna do and stick to it, because the world is full of a lot of evil. People see you doing good, they'll say, I don't want you to be this, I don't want you to. And you got that positive thought, you gotta keep it. Don't let nobody change you from calling her mom. Call her mom until she on the other side of the world. My mom's is on the other side, but still mom. She was a lady that let you integrate with your parents.
True.
That's a plus. That's a plus. That's a plus.
It's a difficult situation.
Yeah. And I know what you go through. God put things in the world for things to happen. You know, if you'd have been with your own biological parents and all, these things might have not even happened in your life.
Right.
You'd have been, what part of North Carolina your mother from?
It was it Charlotte or? Well, they kind of moved around all kinds of places.
They're
so.
from the Mebane, Raleigh, Durham.
Oh, Mebane. I was in Mebane. Yeah, Mebane,
That's
North
where
Carolina.
her
Yeah, Mebane. I know. I was in Mebane. I was in Mebane about 6-7 months ago. I know Mebane.
Okay.
Yeah. Her birth parents both.
Yeah,
lived
and right outside
around
on Greensboro, on that side.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
But in life, things is gonna happen. You might have not even got to be where you at.
Right.
So God showed the light, and I don't know where y'all learned to speak, but I'm telling y'all, that's why y'all went in the path, because you speak better than everybody else in the path. And if you keep going, you're gonna get there. But now, today I was just listening at my granddaughter say, like, you collect bags and suitcases.
Yes, I do.
You're gonna get some from me. I'm gonna make sure that. I'm gonna make sure that. I'm gonna make sure my granddaughter say, Grandpa sent you this. And you gonna hear from me too. You're gonna get a donation too.
Oh, thank you.
But in life, with adoption, you gotta keep talking about it, because black people is way behind with it. And most people that have been adopted, they be way up if they get up there. But if they don't be adopting somebody to help them, they're gonna still be down in the gutter. And the good thing that I like about you say, I hate when people gotta put their stuff in trash bags. Because trash bags.
Right.
Like it's their garbage.
Yes.
And that thing bothered me. Because when I went and got these kids from the shelter, they was in the shelter in the Bronx, I'll never forget it. These people came to my house, they looked at my house, and they said, okay, you can get them. They brought them. And when they came, they was good kids. But the thing is this, foster care, when foster care come, they want to, because I used to go out and leave them in the house by themselves. And don't open that door for nobody. And Quanika's sister, Nene, she used to stay on the phone. One time I came home, like about 3 or 4 in the morning, and there was a lady sitting in the ledge right by my door. I walked down the hall like I was, and shook my key. I turned around and went back on the elevator and went back out the building. Well, I know they were trying to see if I'm going in the house.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And to piggyback a little bit on what Grandpa was saying, the mental health thing. So you having this stability makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the challenges I faced while not, being stable for those years really brought a lot of confusion. And so it did create a lot of distance because I needed to learn and understand and try to push through those challenges and those emotions of brokenness, And so when you guys are sitting here and saying I got that support, you can't take it lightly because it's still my siblings that are struggling. And I can't pull up the weight. You know, the most I can do is try to keep moving and create these platforms for those that are willing and trying to show up and do better. Because it does make a difference.
Yeah, and that's one thing about Eternity's platform that is really important. Being a teacher and then with the social work that I do, I have, because nobody else in the school knows, we've had kids who have been in crisis and are really struggling with their mental health. And it's very difficult because, like Eternity was mentioning, we talk about mental health all the time. Probably a lot more than we have probably in any generations, right? We talk about it. But it is so incredibly difficult to actually have resources to help people. Like, it's great if we're talking about it all day, but if there's nothing there to help people, that's been challenging. And so she is really consistent with her platform about posting resources. And I'm not even gonna lie, I have printed out stuff that she has created, and she creates everything herself. I have printed that stuff out and given them to my students because I was like, this is a consistent resource. She's using social media, which I know not everybody's on, but it is really helpful for some of the kids. And if they're always on their phones anyways. I'm like, hey, follow her page. She has really great stuff. Like, she's very consistent with the stuff that she's putting out and backing it with facts and statistics so that it's helpful in a way that is going to be engaging for the youth that really need it. And so that's something that has been really great. And mental health in general, like, I've had a lot of friends who have been trying to seek help or will try to get therapy, and it's like either therapy is way too expensive, nobody's taking new clients, it's like, and people are in crisis, and it's like, so what are we supposed to do, So, her resource is very helpful, and I'm honestly just really impressed that she's taken this on and really created a whole brand. I mean, if you get the chance, definitely look at it. It's great.
Right, can you spell out that?
Yeah, look, I'm on Instagram.
So it's Eclipse on Foley, so ECLA.
Oh shoot, hold on. ECL. Okay.
TANTET.
I'm
Sorry.
ECL.
I'm right.
I was watching her write it, so I was like,
Was it desk, a toilet,
yes.
and celebrity fashion? Is that it?
I'm sorry, can you just show me?
Okay. I will type it for her. Is it that?
ECL.
I just typed
Okay,
it.
I got you.
Electrosonic.
Do you speak French?
A little bit. This is a bit of my culture.
Okay.
Right here, this pink one.
Okay, screenshot that, Z.
I so appreciate that because it's not easy. I will say it's a lot of work to make sure not only am I passionate about this, but I'm also enveloping myself in the knowledge for it. So sometimes I will say I get a bit discouraged because it is a small organization, and sometimes it gets discouraging, like, does this even help anyone? Is anyone really looking at this? So I'm so incredibly grateful to have my big sister Caitlin to not only motivate me but to also pour into me and pour into the things that I'm doing.
What were some of the things you've had on there? Like some of your favorite things that you've posted or resources?
So I feel like I'm a very analytical person. Like I said, this is my baby. I take a lot of care of it. So there's something that I like to do called a reminder receipt. So it's kind of like a receipt kind of format because I get digital sometimes and I be on the apps make flyers and stuff. So I just make little reminders. I also do, like I said, a note. So what I like to do is have, for example, the topic is depression. And it's like depression is setting a note to you. So think about how your depression is. And like I said, if you're in bed and you just feel like you cannot even brush your teeth, you can't even drink any water, depression is telling you to just get up and pour into yourself. You're the only person who can help yourself. That would be something that I post, or I even have it's so important to not only be active and be a face in social media, but also a face in my community. I am so passionate about social media because I feel there was times where I found myself mindlessly scrolling and I seen things that weren't exactly positive. So just to have a page on social media that is just telling you you're a beautiful person, that's encouraging. That's something, because I think social media is such a beautiful tool. but sometimes we don't utilize it in the best manner. To have a page like mine, to know that, you know, this page is supporting you and this page will pour into you and, you know, create a community is so beautiful, but also to do that advocacy work outside of social media. Because I love to get my hands dirty, and I'll talk about things like anosognosia, which is something, a diagnosis that everyone has. It is transmitters that are sent to your brainstorm lobe to give you an update. For example, if you get a haircut, you know, you wake up and you're like, okay, this is how my hair is, and then you get your haircut and then you go to sleep the next day. Some people, their brain doesn't update that haircut. So that can lead to schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So it's so important to not only talk about, depression, anxiety, but the real things, ADHD, ADD, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and etc. I've gone through many family members who struggle with their mental health themselves, and even struggling myself, because struggle is real sometimes, and we all can struggle. But it's so important to do those things for not only myself, but also for people and others on social media, also off of social media.
You say you go to schools, high school? Because you're still a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, that is your platform right there.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, she's a teenager, they will listen to you.
Thank
So,
you.
how often do you go to high schools?
No, it was at college actually. So we went to the U of A, Caitlin.
Yeah.
We got to speak to her personal sorority, that she actually created. But also, I got to speak to another college at the U of A, Tucson, about mental health. And it was, I will say, it was scary because I actually did grow up in my high school year being homeschooled.
When she was a year old, she was about a year old, her birth father contacted me because he had my phone number.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, hi, this is his son. And I had met him when I picked her up. I actually had lunch and dinner with both her birth parents. And her birth father has consistently been in her life. I mean, he calls, you know, he calls on birthday, he called on Christmas.
Oh, nice.
You know, and then when she was 3, we went and visited him.
Yeah.
Then when she was 6, we went and visited again, and she got to meet her birth mother at that time as well. We passed, you know, along the ways, and finally I left him a note on his door.
Yeah, so we
over at this
apparently
hotel.
are going to have a
Blah, blah,
state
blah.
pageant.
He got married.
Crown a new
Finds
set of
the note.
queens.
Oh my
And that'll be
He
in
calls us at the
No,
hotel,
December,
'cause this
right?
is before
Yeah,
December.
yeah.
It'll be in December.
He calls
so
us at the
you're trying to
hotel,
run.
and we're
Yeah,
down in
we
the
have no
lobby
age limit,
at-
'cause y'all
by
don't
the
know.
window.